Trusting people you meet on the internet can be difficult. You never really know who's on the other end. This is especially true for websites like Craigslist. While many people use Craigslist safely and successfully, there have been instances of scams, fraud, and even violence associated with the users of the site. Here are 3 creepy Craigslist stories that'll give you chills, and maybe leave you wondering if you should even use the website. There's something that has me feeling really uneasy, and I need to get it off my chest. It was a Sunday evening in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I was sitting in my living room, scrolling through the ads on my phone, like you do. I'd been searching for a new piece of furniture for my apartment, just something to brighten up the boring space and make it feel homier. That's when I saw this ad on Craigslist. I've never been a fan of buying things online, and this experience only confirmed my fears. The ad was for an antique rocking chair, the kind your grandparents might have owned. The picture showed a beautiful mahogany frame with intricate carvings and plush red velvet cushions. The price was surprisingly low, but the seller, let's call her Bridget, assured me that it was in great condition and that I'd be getting a steal. I hesitated at first, wondering if it was just too good to be true. But eventually I caved and I contacted the seller. I mean, who could pass up such a good deal, right? We arranged to meet at this rundown motel the next day on the outskirts of town. This was only about a 3-mile drive from my house, so it wasn't too far. I was a little nervous about the location, but the seller assured me that it was convenient for both of us. We were supposed to meet at 5 p.m., but I got there just a little early, so I sat in my truck, waiting for Bridget to give me a call. It was getting darker by the minute, and then it started raining cats and dogs. I started to feel nervous, like maybe I'd made a mistake by coming alone. I mean, it's a creepy rundown motel, it's getting dark, and then it starts raining. Who wouldn't be a little freaked out? She finally arrived, which helped settle my nerves. She was an older woman, maybe in her 60s, with kind eyes and a nice smile. It turned out she lived in the motel, which struck me as odd, but I ignored it. Anyway, she led me to her room, which was cluttered with antiques and old trinkets. The rocking chair was in a corner, looking just as beautiful as it had in the picture. I sat in it to test it out, and was immediately struck by how comfortable it was. It felt like it was made just for me. I was convinced I'd hit the jackpot. Then things started to get a little weird. Bridget began to talk about the chair as if it were alive, like it had a personality of its own. She told me stories about how it had been in her family for generations, and how it had brought luck and fortune to whoever sat in it. I tried to brush it off as harmless superstition, but the more she talked, the more uncomfortable I became. As I was getting ready to leave with the chair, she grabbed my arm and looked me dead in the eyes. "Take care of that chair," she said, her voice low and urgent. "It's important to us." Immediately, I thought to myself, who's us? And that was my final cue to just get out of there. So I lifted the chair and took it back out to my truck. At this point, I just wanted to get out of there, away from this crazy old lady. When I think about it, there are a lot of things that just don't add up. Why didn't she tell me she lived at the motel? What took her so long to come out? And most of all, why was she talking about the chair like it was a real person? It's been a few weeks since then. What's crazy is that I haven't even really used the chair since I got it home. I was so excited about it. Now, I don't even want to look at it. Am I going crazy? Or is there something else going on here? I used to be a pretty avid user of Craigslist, until I had this nightmarish experience. It was the summer of 2021 in Redmond, Washington, and I was really excited to receive a message from a buyer named Frank. He was interested in buying a blender I'd put up for sale. He asked if I could deliver it to his house, to which I happily obliged. I mean, he only lived like 5 or 6 blocks away. As we were finalizing the sale, we made small talk about things we wanted to buy in the future. I mentioned I was in the market to buy a desk next, and then eventually down the line, some rims for my car. It was basically a pleasant interaction, and I felt good about it. Frank was a cool guy. The next day, I was scrolling through Craigslist and stumbled upon an ad for a specific model of a desk that I had been searching for. For some context, I work from home, and I was just looking for a nice desk to add to my workspace. I inquired about it and was surprised to learn that the seller was Frank, the same guy who had just bought my blender. At the time, I thought it was just a coincidence, so I decided to go take a look at the desk. However, when I got there, it was clear that the desk was nothing like the one pictured in the ad. It looked like it had been thoughtlessly put together from scrap wood. I felt deceived and frustrated that I'd wasted my time. Frank apologized for the condition of the desk, and I was on my way. The next day, I got a text message from him, inviting me over for a beer. I declined. I was still feeling a little salty about the desk. But about an hour later, I came across another Craigslist ad for some car rims that were a perfect match from my Toyota. I was running 3 for 3 in the ads department. I rushed to the meeting point thinking I had struck gold. But once again, the seller turned out to be Frank. I felt a chill run down my spine when I saw him. He stood there with scratched up rims that weren't even from my car, waiting for me to arrive at the meeting place. This was the second time this had happened, and it made me realize that he had intentionally been posting ads that would specifically catch my attention. After all, I did tell him what I was looking for next. Now I was beginning to fear for my safety. I was actually worried that he might try to harm me in some way. I immediately changed my phone number and the locks to my house. I deleted Craigslist from my phone and hoped I'd never see him again. A few weeks later, my curiosity got the better of me, and I logged back into Craigslist to check and see if I had any messages. And Frank was gone. His user ID was blocked, so I had no way of proving whether I was talking to him or not. After this, I was way more careful about meeting up with people I'd met online. This happened back in 2017 when I was still living with my parents in Birmingham, Alabama. I'd been trying to sell my Toyota Camry for weeks, and finally, somebody named Adam responded to my Craigslist ad. The car wasn't exactly brand new, but it wasn't in the worst condition either. I'm a little bit of a clean freak, so I have a tendency to keep all my belongings extra clean, and if I could get a better price because of it, all the better. Adam and I agreed to meet in a parking lot in front of the local Walmart, about 3 blocks down, and after a quick inspection, he offered me $3,000 in cash. It was a fair price, and I didn't hesitate to sign over the title and hand over the keys. When we were shaking hands, I noticed a tattoo on his left arm. It was an angel sitting in the hands of a devil. I told him he had a cool tattoo, to which he smiled and said, "Thanks, bud, it keeps me straight." About 10 minutes later, I watched as he drove away, happy to have the extra cash in my pocket. But just half an hour later, I was walking back to my own car after getting a snack from the store when a man wearing a ski mask appeared out of nowhere. He had a gun. He demanded that I hand over everything I had, and I knew that there was no way to talk my way out of the situation. Nothing like this had ever happened in my 21 years, and I was terrified, but I knew I had to keep my wits about me if I was going to make it out of this alive. I tried to stay calm as I handed over my wallet and phone, but my heart was racing. This wasn't supposed to happen. I was just trying to sell my car, and now I was being robbed at gunpoint? What struck me as really weird was when I was handing him my belongings, I noticed the same tattoo on the thief as the one Adam had on his left arm. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This man had just taken my car, then stolen the money back from me. Adam disappeared just as quickly as he had appeared, leaving me shaken and alone in the parking lot. I stumbled back to my car, feeling violated and terrified. I couldn't believe what had just happened to me, and I knew that it was going to be a long time before I felt safe again. I filed a complaint to the police a little while later, but they never found Adam or my car. I was lucky, I guess. It's weird, but I still second-guess myself, even now. Was it the same guy, with that same exact tattoo? Or could it have just been a coincidence? I guess I'll never really know. If you thought these stories were scary, then make sure you watch this next video here if you really want to be scared.